It's been an interesting last few months. We have had over 200 booked calls and we signed and onboarded 24 new clients. And I wish I could just sit here at the end of it all, well, when it's about to all kick off even further, and tell you that this has all to do with me overcoming some fear and phobia and sitting down nose to the grindstone and just doing endless bounds of outreach, DMing people, chasing them endlessly with endless amounts of grit and determination, and cold calling and overcoming rejection and adversity and snatching victory from the shark's jaws and whatnot. But I'd be lying, because this had nothing to do with outdated methods like cold calling, outreach, door knocking, working in DMs, or any of that stuff. No. A bit about myself. I have at this point spent over $10 million in ads over the last 4 years across social media, all social media. I've worked with over 60, 70 brands and coaches and consultants. I've worked in marketing agencies and for marketing agencies, helping brands scale to 6, 7, and 8 figures. And I've even worked with 3 corporate brands, 10-figure brands, and dealt with big, large corporate clients. And so the question stands. Client acquisition has been a pretty big issue of mine 3-4 years ago when I changed careers entirely. I quit my engineering career and started figuring out digital marketing, SMMA, social media marketing advertising. And back at the time, I wasn't sure how to start getting clients. And I set out on a quest to basically crack this for myself, but it cost me 4 years. And the reason for that, I'm going to go into 2 stories to explain this, because we're seeing now clients come into our sales calls mirroring the exact same beliefs that I've had and the exact same kind of attitude, frameworks, and approach that hold them back from pulling the trigger on the one thing that's going to make all the difference in the world in their business, in their success. And that has to do with one of these 2 perceptions: perfectionism and risk appetite. Now, in order to understand the risk appetite, I'm going to tell you a quick story about how 2-3 years ago, I've had a bunch of hustles in the last 4 or 5 years as I was trying to do a bit of soul finding to figure out what I was going to do. Ended up selling cars. And as I was in a car park waiting to get my car fixed, there was another guy next to me with an old beat Ford Focus. It was a pretty nice Ford Focus, to be fair, 2004. And he was basically, long story short, he was selling it. He was interested in getting rid of it. Found out that I was going to potentially sell it for him because I was a car salesman at the moment, a used car salesman. So I was quite skeptical. I wanted to buy it. I had a good feeling. I thought I could flip it for some good, decent bit of change, but I didn't do it. Luckily for me, my dad was in the country at the time. He was here for my sister's wedding. And when he heard about it, he said, yes, you have to buy this car because it's a Ford, and Ford Focus are very appreciated and loved around here. Buy this car. But somehow I didn't believe him. And I was so apprehensive to take that risk. I didn't want to shed $1,000. It's pounds, especially because I wasn't really getting any constant income at the time. And yet, luckily for me, my dad's an entrepreneur. He's been an entrepreneur his whole life. His risk tolerance is through the roof, as opposed to my mom's, whose is very risk averse. He basically agreed to share the cost of the car with me, to sort of split the risk, if you will. And so on and so forth. So we went and we bought it. We split the money in half. And we drove it back home, and within a couple of hours, we must have had 20, 30 offers. We sold it, we flipped it for, I can't remember, must have haggled it down to 500, and we flipped it for 2K, something like that. So a nice, decent return. Now, why am I telling you this story? It's because I've realized that this kind of risk tolerance and lack of appetite for, investing in something that's potentially high reward is the same kind of mindset that's held me back from investing in growing my business, in growing my own marketing agency and other ventures, other businesses at the same time. Basically investing and taking some sort of perceived risk. And the second story has to do with perfectionism, which I know can be very prevalent for someone who's probably gone to school, to university, and has been conditioned by society to always think that they're not prepared, to think that there is a perfect way and method to do things, and any other way is just short of, ideal. Now, I believe that so much so that I never wanted to invest in ads. I never wanted to invest in advertising for myself. I never wanted to invest in any form of outreach. And because of that, I actually went off on a path of pursuing excellence in media buying. I ended up working in marketing agencies, big and small, handling 10-figure corporate clients and spending millions and millions on social media platforms, basically trying to figure out everything there was about social media advertising and advertising in general. Because I would think that once I had all of that experience, I would basically be a master of advertising. And to be fair, it was 100% worth it. And I definitely can say with confidence that I am now a marketing expert when it comes to all of these things that the regular, advertisers, the new entrants into the market can't have any claims over. But the price to pay was far greater. And this is something that's basically gone a bit way off the rails, because there was absolutely no need to go into such a long pursuit to understand this before actually pulling the trigger and running some ads for myself. Now, when we see sales calls where people come in and they say they're not ready, they don't have money to invest in advertising, and now they're going to go and do email outreach, or they're going to do DM, or they're just going to wait until they're ready, we know that is potentially the path that they will go down on. So these are the typical common sort of counters, common objections. Email is cheaper. DM outreach is cheaper. Outreach in general is cheaper. The truth of the matter is that if you're going to do that at scale, it's not going to be cheaper. It's actually going to be more expensive in both money, capital, and opportunity cost. It doesn't scale as easily. It's very frictionful. It has a lot of friction, basically. And that's something that kind of gets overlooked. People think, oh, I'll just send a couple of emails and that'll be fine. But because of that, there's such a low barrier of entry. Everyone does it. It gets saturated very quickly. And it just seems to have a really bad perception and acceptance by the market. We do emails for ourselves. We've done emails, we've done DMs, hundreds of thousands of DMs and emails, and now ads as well. And it doesn't compare. It's a world of difference. It's day and night. The warmth of a good lead coming from a good ad is just unprecedented. In fact, as I'm recording this, we've just closed 4 new clients, 6K each, 15%. So that's entirely from cold ads, which is a pretty remarkable outcome, achievement, especially since our brand is still quite young. We're only creating and building our brand now. And that really is the power of advertising, the power of a good offer, the power of good copywriting, first and foremost. We're talking fundamentals here. If I was to go back to what's making advertising successful and where we see the 20% that generate the 80% of the returns, in terms of the success with advertising, well, that would be good old psychological persuasion, copywriting. In fact, when I started learning advertising and media buying, Facebook ads and all of that, I basically studied copy. I studied copy extensively, studied the good old Eugene Schwartz, breakthrough advertising, Russell Brunson, Dan Kennedy, all of these basic, they're far from basic. They are alchemists, they are wizards. And that's the kind of stuff that sits at the foundation of a good ad. And apart from that, also video, creative, the ability to stand in front of a camera and produce a good creative. It can't be overlooked. It's highly, highly recommended, especially in a space where it's so easy to slap a couple of images together and everyone can just come in with a bit of Canva and AI and stick an image on an ad. Video typically gets underutilized, undervalued. And it's not just that, it's also the fact that an ad that's driven by a video is going to nurture, it's going to convey more message, more understanding, it's going to persuade from the outset. Yes, there's 2 schools of thought there. One is that the ad should only get the click to the lander and then the lander should do the persuasion, whatever. Test both. We always test both. It's beside the point of this video. This video is more about mindset when it comes to perfectionism and when it comes to risk tolerance. Another objection that we get from clients, another kind of like plan, the ones that don't want to start ads think that it's expensive, that it requires a lot of capital upfront. And that is just nothing further from the truth. We have, in fact, built a couple of businesses at the start and at the end of last year from the ground up with no prior experience with ads, without even any solid case studies and testimonials, if I'm being honest. So just purely based off of the offer and the ads themselves. And as we speak, we are running multiple ad accounts where we generate leads and booked appointments, leads for $5, $10, $15 based on the niche, whether it's home improvement or whether it's e-commerce. It's way easier, and well, it's not easy, but it's way more affordable than people think from the outset. And that's something that we just kind of sort of repeatedly come across. And it's an interesting one because it does require a bit of a mind shift, a bit of a coaching, a bit of a reframe to make people realize that actually here's how you can look at this. If your biases come into this thing and you look at advertising and think, oh, advertising is inherently risky, I'm just going to go and do DM and email. Well, you're going to do what everyone else is doing. And it goes without saying, if everyone zigs, you got to zag. How are you going to zag if you're going to basically apply the exact same cognitive mental models that everyone else does? Don't seek the path of least resistance. Don't seek the path that seems the most obviously easy and risk-free, because that actually turns out to be the saturated one, the one that's more risky in the end. Think about it the other way. If you think that ads are something risky, then ask yourself, why do you think that? Because I actually did a bit of, introspection to figure out why I personally thought ads are something risky. It turns out that actually, when I was looking at reasons, whether it was anecdotal evidence or what was it, I didn't really find anything. It just turns out that it was a belief that was planted in me. I must have absorbed it from somewhere, or maybe I just purely assumed it and it was just not verified. All to say that if you don't learn how to think, if you don't learn how to use good mental analyses to figure out what's true and what's not true, you're basically going to believe a bunch of stuff that's not true. You're going to believe a bunch of crap that's going to distort your perception of reality. Simple as that. It's sad to think that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are driving their business based on emotion, and that I have for a long time as well, I suppose. I mean, I should know better than anyone. It's cost me so many years of underselling myself, working in other people's businesses, building their businesses up instead of taking that risk myself. And the moment when that hit for me was when I realized that, wait a minute, I could literally just put $500, $1,000 into this as an experiment. Just take a growth mindset and take a 1% better every day kind of approach. What is that approach? Well, the approach is, if I'm going to put $500 in testing ads for myself, then maybe it's not going to succeed. Yes, let's take the worst case scenario. Let's take a risk criterion. Yes, well, what could happen? The ads could flop. First thing, it's not going to flop, absolutely. It's not like we're going to watch and sit down there watching ads, spending and spending and spending and not learn from it. I mean, we have a growth mindset here. We have a mindset of continuous and relentless improvement, right? We don't just pour money down the drain. We learn from it. We're buying hard-earned data. And second of all, this is an experiment that can potentially allay all of my doubts, all of my uncertainties, all of my skepticisms, limiting beliefs. What if my face doesn't work on ads? I actually used to think that. What if my accent, what if my voice doesn't work on ads? What if people simply won't like me for the way I speak, or for my message, or for my offer? People's limitations and limiting beliefs are very idiosyncratic. They're very particular to themselves. And most people are not even aware of them because they just block them into the subconscious, or the ones that are aware of them believe them so truthfully that they don't even question them. The thing with the limiting beliefs, you know it, you've heard it before, we tend to question all of our beliefs except the ones that we truly believe, and those we never question at all. And the only way to know the truth is to actually go in practice and to try. And that's basically what's made such a world of difference in the growth of our agency in the last few months. And this is how we plan on scaling in 2024. We're just going to go ham on ads. We've got proof of concepts, and forget all the outdated methods. Forget DM, forget email, forget all of this outreach stuff that just feels safe. Stop playing a safe game. Yes, it's true. In the beginning, we did utilize some of that. It's something that's definitely played a part in the growth of our agency. But at the end of the day, if you have things with zero cost of replication, like the Facebook or the TikTok, the social media algorithms that can learn for you and that can put the grind and the work in for you so that you don't have to, then why wouldn't you use and leverage the highest and best tools available? That is just, in theory, it's such a no-brainer. When it comes to, from a rational standpoint, it's just something that I'm probably never going to stop advocating about for the rest of my life, because I know the price I've had to pay in time and in opportunity cost in waiting to overcome this thing. And how, if I think back years back to the greatest fantasy that I've ever had, which is I never want to have to go and do a cold outreach ever again. I never want to go and bother someone with a spray and pray mentality, because it's 2024 and it was 2020 probably back then. And if in the 21st century you're still not using all of the playbook of marketing and advertising, which is, put some resources out there, get people to raise their hands, and then go and approach them instead. Make it warm as much as possible. I mean, look at Tinder. Why is Tinder crushing the way it has? Why is all the dating happening now the way it is? It's because it's making it warm. It's because it's taking that element of, the cold approach, the cold open, the cold call, the cold door knocking out of the equation. And it's basically putting you in an advantageous position where you are you're kind of like doing choosing as well. you are being sort of approached as opposed to coming into it from a position of weakness. And I know there's definitely a lot of counter arguments to that, which is if everyone's doing it, then you should be doing the exact opposite. I'm completely aligned with that. I realize the kind of irony in what I'm saying there. But at the same time, this is kind of like a fractal. Inside of it, you could still be doing different things and still play the odds in your favor with smart methods. So that's basically the manifesto for ads, for overcoming limiting beliefs, for building a bit of tolerance for risk, drawing down that risk to a point where it's manageable. Think about whatever your biggest purchase was, what you've spent money on before. What was the return on that? What was the advantage that that's brought to your life? Has that really enriched your life? Or would you have been better off putting a bit of money into something that you know that you maybe should try, but you haven't? Same thing goes with coaching. Since I'm going a bit off rails here and a bit of a tangent, coaching is something that I've been quite apprehensive investing money in for quite some time. And then when I finally did, I've spent tens of thousands, and it has been one of the most fruitful investments that I have ever made. And so, don't shy away from investing in yourself. Don't shy away from investing in your business. Don't expect to make an omelette without breaking some eggs. The concept of ROI, the concept of ROAS, return on ad spend, is something that so many business owners don't even understand. Intuitively even. If you're going to sign a client, we're dealing with clients now who are offering SEO packages or other, ranking and PPC ads and whatnot, working with local businesses. Well, if we ask you, what is the lifetime value of a customer? And you're telling me that when you sign a client, they stay with you for years and you're getting 20, 30, 40 grand of that client, then don't you realize that spending a couple of G's to acquire that customer is actually a phenomenal, outstanding ROAS? It's the one-on-ones, it's the basics. Business is not complicated. We overcomplicate it with our own perceptions and beliefs. It's just numbers on a spreadsheet, and the numbers don't lie. So take a clinical approach to it. Think about your own business. Think about what a customer is worth to you. Think about how much you're willing to pay to acquire that customer, and realize that it actually makes a ton of sense to invest towards getting them through the smartest channels possible as well. Because once you've cracked that, the biggest agencies, the ones that you see at 7 figures and beyond, they've all cracked it. There's other gurus out there saying the same things. Don't trust me. Don't take my word for it. Do your homework. Don't just assume misconceptions and cognitive shortcuts that your brain has taken because of the path of least resistance. Do your homework. Instead of letting your biases, your cognitive confirmation biases come in and tell you how this could fail, why this would fail, do the exact opposite. Look around you, because now it's more accessible than ever. Granted, I'll say that. I'll give you that. Now it's more accessible than ever to look around and to see how many people are succeeding with their businesses, with their agencies, how many people are crushing it ads. Just go on Facebook ads library. Go on Google's ads library. When's the last time you went on these libraries to see how much money people have spent in their ads? Do you really think they would spend that money if it didn't work? Businesses are built on advertising, and stopping advertising to save money, it's like stopping a clock to save time. I think that's how the saying goes. All right, that's basically it. That's a advertiser / media buyer / agency owner's rant for ads, a manifesto for ads. So I hope this has been interesting. I hope it's opened up your eyes, new perspectives. And if you want to see how we can help, then go in the description. I've left a link for some source. Come and get some source. Follow us on Instagram for some quick snippets, daily insights from the trenches where we actually work and walk the walk every day. And that's it from me. Over and out. Until next time.